Good morning, everyone. It's a Tuesday, November 10th. Coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Kim Dami, filling in for Kim Mo-gyun. Before we get started, these are the stories following at the top of the hour. Hopes for a COVID-19 vaccine are on the rise. A potential vaccine from Pfizer is strongly effective at protecting people, with data showing more than 90% effectiveness. Just days after declaring election victory, U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has launched his administration's very own COVID-19 task force. And following Biden's victory, Seoul's Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo have reaffirmed their commitment to ensuring peace on the Korean Peninsula. South Korea has added 100 more new COVID-19 cases on Monday. It's the third day in a row that the number of cases has been in triple digits. Of them, 71 were local transmissions and 29 were from overseas. On top of the cluster infections that have originated from places vulnerable to the virus like hospitals, there are now new infections emerging from small gatherings, workplaces, and subway stations. There were 5 more deaths, bringing the death toll to 485. On to some good news. American drug giant Pfizer and its German partners say their COVID-19 vaccine candidate may be more than 90% effective. Our Lee Seung-jae has the details.
With over 50 million COVID-19 cases reported so far, the world is in dire need of a working vaccine. The latest announcement by Pfizer is a welcoming one, as the American biopharmaceutical company announced Monday that its COVID-19 vaccine may be more than 90% effective based on its early and incomplete test results, which nevertheless bring some much-needed optimism. The news comes from an analysis of a study involving over 43,000 volunteers, 42% of whom come from diverse backgrounds. Each participant received 2 injections 21 days apart. Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech says the results from 94 evaluable cases of COVID-19 show the vaccine is more than 90% effective, much higher than the U.S. FDA minimum effectiveness bar of 50%. The vaccine is the first in development to have data proving to exceed the minimum. With the announcement, WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus took to Twitter on Monday, calling the results encouraging, while sending a salute to scientists around the world who are developing vaccines. The WHO Senior Advisor Bruce Aylward, while addressing the WHO's annual Ministerial Assembly, also called Pfizer's Phase 3 trial very positive. Tedros believes a COVID-19 vaccine may be rolled by March next year to the most vulnerable and could fundamentally change the course of the pandemic, which has so far killed more than 1.26 million people worldwide. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The U.S. saw record-breaking COVID-19 cases on Monday, with over 10 million infections confirmed nationwide. That accounts for nearly a fifth of worldwide cases and comes just 10 days after hitting the 9 million mark. Our Choi Min-jung has the details.
The U.S. has reached another grim milestone, officially surpassing 10 million confirmed COVID-19 cases. Data from Johns Hopkins University revealed on Monday show that the country accounts for roughly a fifth of global cases and nearly 19% of COVID-19 fatalities worldwide, with 237,000 deaths. The U.S. reported the latest 1 million infections just 10 days after it hit the 9 million mark. This is the highest rate of infections since the pandemic began in the country earlier this year. In addition, the most recent 7-day average for daily cases is at an all-time high, exceeding 100,000. Based on the findings from Johns Hopkins University, CNN reported on Monday that new COVID-19 cases increased by over 10% in 43 states. As the virus continues to spread ferociously across the nation, some states and local governments are tightening measures to combat the pandemic. In Utah, the governor declared a new state of emergency on Sunday with strict restrictions, including a statewide mask mandate. Over in New Jersey, the governor announced on Monday that restaurants will close overnight and bar seating will be completely banned starting Thursday local time. In New York, the government has introduced 3 new microcluster areas upstate, which divide counties into color-coded zones depending on the severity of the infection. Despite the efforts, however, health authorities warn the worst of the pandemic is yet to come as winter holiday season approaches, highly increasing the risk of virus transmissions. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
As the U.S. continues to grapple with the spread of COVID-19, President-elect Joe Biden has launched his administration's very own COVID-19 task force. He also urged the American public to wear face masks. Kim Yo-sun reports.
Just days after U.S. President-elect Joe Biden declared victory in the election, his transition team unveiled on Monday the members of his COVID-19 task force. As expected, the team will be headed by Dr. Vivek Murthy, who led the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps under the Obama administration, David Kessler, a former FDA commissioner, and Marcella Nunes-Smith, a Yale physician and researcher. The 13-member task force also includes Rick Bright, the former head of the Vaccine Development Agency, Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, who was ousted by the Trump administration in April.
This group will advise on detailed plans built on a bedrock of science and to keep compassion, empathy, and care for every American at its core, making rapid testing widely available, more widely available, much more widely available, and building a core of contact tracers who will track and curb this disease while we prioritize getting vaccines first to the most at-risk populations.
Highlighting that fighting the pandemic will be one of his top priorities, Biden called on Americans to wear face masks.
I implore you, wear a mask. Do it for yourself. Do it for your neighbor. A mask is not a political statement, but it is a good way to start pulling the country together. I want to be very clear. The goal of mask wearing is not to make your life less comfortable. It's to take something away from you. It's to give something back to all of us, a normal life.
CNN explained that Joe Biden is taking the COVID-19 outbreak seriously at a time when over 230,000 Americans have died from the virus. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
After months of speculation, U.S. President Donald Trump has fired Defense Secretary Mark Esper. In his place, Trump has appointed Christopher Miller, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. Hong Yu has more.
Mark Esper has been terminated. That was the tweet Monday from U.S. President Donald Trump that sealed Esper's fate. He added he was appointing Christopher Miller, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, as his acting defense secretary. The move comes 2 days after President Trump was projected to have lost his re-election bid to Joe Biden, and with him having a little over 2 months left in office. Speculation has been swirling since June that Esper could be terminated for opposing President Trump over his decision to deploy military troops in Washington, D.C. to quell rowdy demonstrations against police brutality. Officials have said Esper knew he was on the brink of being fired and had pre-written a resignation letter weeks ago. Before this encounter, Trump is known to have given Esper the nickname Yesper due to his tendency to always side with his decisions. Shortly after President Trump's tweet, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi released a statement saying Esper's abrupt firing is evidence Trump is intent on using his final days in office to sow chaos. Sources say Miller arrived at the Pentagon an hour after he was named acting secretary and was briefed on all matters related to his post, such as the nuclear codes and current operations around the world. ABC News reports that some Pentagon officials are concerned about Trump beginning a new operation against his adversaries, such as Iran, during the remainder of his term. Esper assumed the post of defense secretary in June last year, taking over from General James Mattis. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa met with her U.S. counterpart Mike Pompeo on Monday. Seoul's foreign ministry said the two reaffirmed their bilateral alliance for co-prosperity and the Korean peace process. They also discussed regional and global issues, as well as how to manage COVID-19 without a complete border closure. Also discussed was the race for the Director General post at the World Trade Organization. During her visit, Kang is expected to meet lawmakers and people from academic circles. Eyes are on whether she'll be contacting those close to U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. The director of South Korea's National Intelligence Service, who is currently in Japan, is arranging a meeting with Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga. The Tokyo Broadcasting System reported Monday that Park Jie-won is making the final adjustments for the meeting that could take place as early as Tuesday. If it goes ahead, Park will be the first high-ranking South Korean official to meet with Japan's new PM. There are expectations he could turn this opportunity into reviving talks between Seoul and Tokyo. Park met on Sunday with the Secretary General of Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Park is known to have discussed issues such as Japan's wartime forced labor of Koreans. The long-running trade dispute between the EU and the U.S. moved into a new phase as EU trade ministers agreed to impose tariffs on American goods over support for the plane maker Boeing. Our Lee Kyung-in has the latest.
The European Union has agreed to impose tariffs and penalties on some $4 billion worth of American products starting Tuesday. The move is retaliation against the U.S. over illegal subsidies paid to the airplane maker Boeing. The member nations made the decision on Monday.
Regrettably, in spite of our best efforts, due to the lack of progress from U.S. side, we can confirm that European Union will later today exercise our rights and impose the countermeasures awarded to us by the WTO in respect of Boeing.
This comes after the World Trade Organization last month gave approval to the bloc to exercise countermeasures against the U.S. Last year, Washington slapped tariffs on European products worth up to $7.5 billion in response to a parallel case concerning illegal state support for Airbus. This trade dispute, which dates back to 2004, has further deteriorated under the Trump administration, which is driven by protectionism and America First policies. But with President-elect Joe Biden set to take office in January, the EU has left room for a positive resolution.
So we call on the U.S. to agree that both sides drop existing countermeasures with immediate effect so that we can quickly put this issue behind us. Removing these tariffs would represent a strong win-win for both sides. We now have an opportunity to reboot our transatlantic cooperation.
According to the EU, the organization has made some informal contact with Team Biden. Lee Kyung-in, Arirang News.
Good morning. The day started off rather chilly, but morning lows were actually 3 to 8 degrees higher than yesterday. And top readings will rise close to the season norms by the afternoon, leading to wide gaps of over 10 degrees between lows and highs. Swings will be wider tomorrow. A lack of moisture in the air is becoming an issue on the East Coast, with more regions being put under dry weather advisories. In fact, mountainous regions in Gangwon-do province is under a dry weather warning now, so please be careful with anything that could start a fire. Highs will climb to the low to mid-teens this afternoon. Seoul will be getting up to 12 degrees. Daegu, Gyeongju, Gwangju will make it to 15 degrees. And there will be lots of sun with good air quality nationwide. Late autumn temperatures return tomorrow afternoon, and dry and sunny weather conditions will continue through the weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have at this hour, but we'll be back with our later newscast at 12 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.